What is up, everybody? We've got another live stream today, and we're going to look at a presentation that I did for E4All about a week ago. I already have to cough, so let's go ahead and mute this. And it's 14 tips, real-world tips for your website. So if you're somebody that's out there and you're looking to build your website for your business, you're looking to improve your website for your business, or you're just saying, my God, there's nobody coming to my website. There's no customers walking through that digital door. This live stream is for you. But before we dive into today's presentation, some housekeeping. Number one, don't forget to subscribe to the We Are Here podcast. That's what I do. I talk to people. We interview them about their business, entrepreneurs on the South Coast. You'll see, well, I have the blog up here, but if you go to southcoast.fm, go ahead and click on the many ways that you can subscribe. You can go to southcoast.fm/subscribe, go to the homepage of southcoast.fm, hit subscribe on the show, iTunes, Google, Spotify, wherever. If you want to go and just sign up for the Facebook page, you can do that. If you click on subscribe, you can also join probably the most beneficial piece of content I put out, and that's my Sunday Notes email. So if you go to southcoast.fm/subscribe, you can drop your email list or name below. That'll add you to the list. If you just go to sundaynotes.email, that'll bring you to the landing page for the Sunday Notes email list. Very beneficial. I highly recommend it. I know I'm a little bit biased, but I highly recommend it. So while we let folks filter in to watch the show, I'm also going to share this to the South Coast Content Creators Group. If you're somebody out there, there's so many people out there, right? that are looking to get better with content marketing. Blogging, podcasting, YouTubing. Join the South Coast Content Creators Group. It is a great way to connect with other people who are doing the same thing. It's a group I started a little while ago. Pleasantly surprised how far it's grown, up to 75 members so far. It's really awesome. It's an accountability group. We post things. We both post tips. We help each other out. It's really fun. Let's dive into today's topic. And that is the 14 real-world tips for your website. Now, again, I do a lot of mentorship in E4All. I didn't do it this year, but I often do. But I also go in to talk about web, digital, and content. So if this is the first time you've ever seen a presentation from me, it's very boot camp-esque. It's the way that I like to present things. And in today's presentation, it's no different. So let's start with tip number one, and that's no designing. Don't waste your time designing your website. Don't worry about the colors, the pixel perfect location of everything. My God, I'd rather have this blue than that blue. Let's just throw that stuff out the window, because if you're a new entrepreneur, if you're somebody who's building this website for the first time, it's a new product, it's a new idea, maybe it's your very first website. We want to get right to the meat of things, and that is delivering exceptional content to your visitors, like giving them a reason to be on the website in the first place, and then giving them the poignant call to actions or the products that they have to buy. Far too often, people will spend their time just moving things around the page, really just fixated on the size of the logo. What does my logo look like? This homepage, I need to have this big, highly detailed, high resolution photo for God knows what reason, or I need to have this auto playing video or music in the background. It's pointless. It doesn't bring the user to the goal that they're there for, and that's either contact you, hire you, buy from you, and trust you. And if you're just designing a poster, it's not going to have any kind of actionable areas. It's not going to have anything that you can really measure to say, well, it was worth spending whatever, hundreds of hours of designing your website, thousands of dollars if you hired somebody, tens of thousands of dollars if you hired somebody. If there's nothing there to measure, it really makes the next tip extremely difficult to measure and to see if it was a success. And what is the goal, right? What is the goal of this website? If you want to have a poster, go for it. Hey, fine. Anybody can design a good looking website, throw it out there, but it's not going to do anything. Okay. It's not going to bring people to the website. Visitors aren't just going to magically show up because you agonized over which hue of blue you wanted to use on that homepage. There's nobody's going to be buying anything because it's just not properly laid out with proper call to actions, or you don't even have product or services on the website to sell. And maybe that's where you draw the line, right? Where you say, hey, I just want something that's up there for the sake of having something up there because it's the year 2020 and my God, I should have a website. And that's cool. Makes sense. Fine. But there is major opportunity to have a website that works for you. Even if you're an accountant, having somebody be able to go to the website and book a time with you, pay for some consulting services, right? Something that you can measure that you says, hey, this asset that I have up here on the web, it's generating value for my business. It's creating leads for my business, and I can clearly measure it. Right. So having those goals clearly outlined, and this is good practice. Number one, if you're going to do it yourself, you don't have to get crazy and get your own sort of, poster board and lay out all your goals if you don't want to. Some of you might do that. Just have it in the back of your head. What is the goal I'm going to measure? And also recognize that these goals, especially if you're building the website for the first time, start small. Have some good expectations, right? If it's your first website, don't expect 1,000 people to be there on day one. Just say, hey, my goal is for the whole month of March to get 1,000 people, 500 people, whatever it is. Depends on your market and your expectations. But divvy that up across months and measure that and keep your goal setting realistic. Okay. And then you start to measure against, is this making me money? Is this creating leads? Is it creating awareness? There's plenty of ways that you can measure against that stuff. And I guess I should say, if you are watching, you can leave a comment and hopefully I'll see that and we can answer any questions that you might have. Appreciate everybody who's watching. And how do we get to these goals? How do we lead visitors to the website, on the website to our goals and to help us achieve those goals? Clear value propositions. Why are they there in the first place? When they get there, why should they stay? Why should they even continue, going down the path of clicking through your website? And do you have the clear call to actions properly laid out, right? Huge, huge thing. So if we just take a look at my website as an example, over at southcoast.fm, I'm not selling anything yet, though available for consulting work. The idea here is present what this is. This is a podcast celebrating South Coast entrepreneurs. Listen to stories and lessons from business owners right here in the South Coast. It's a podcast. You're here to learn about some business things. And I'll be interviewing people that are building businesses in our hometowns. And my call to actions, my real goal for the website as it exists right now, is getting people to subscribe to the podcast, getting them into listening to the episodes, and then hopefully sharing them on social media to amplify the messaging. So right out of the gate, I'm asking people to subscribe to the show. I'm asking them to share with others, jumping on Facebook. I give them a secondary call to action doing the same exact thing: iTunes, Google, Spotify, clicking these links, bring the visitor directly to their favorite podcast listening app. And then if that wasn't enough, providing additional content beyond the podcasts, sort of all around podcasting and content marketing. And we'll talk about more about the website in a little bit, but I'm just showing you how I position clear value proposition, celebrating South Coast entrepreneurs who are building businesses so they can help us learn and build our own businesses. And then my call to action is listen to the show, share it with friends, right? And you want to do the same thing. And this stuff doesn't happen overnight. Depending on your website and where you're at with your business and your website knowledge, might not be something you can do immediately. But start to think about it. Talk to your consultant or whoever's working on your website and see if you can make this stuff a little bit clearer, a little bit easier for folks to navigate. Sort of the brand messaging that I like to put out, and this is not something that I invented, that's for damn sure. But to me, everything is content. Everything you do in your business, outside of your business, can be turned into valuable or relevant, educational, entertaining content for your visitors, your customers, your leads, your fans, your audience, your donors, whatever it is, whatever business you're in. The important thing is to decouple the expectation that everyone that visits your website should be a customer, right? Not everybody will be a customer, but more often than not, people will be a fan, an audience member, right? People are just inspired by whatever it is that you're doing, and they just want to amplify that message. So when you can share more content, when you can share content that is unique, valuable, entertaining, fun, whatever, you're giving yourself a chance, and we'll talk about this later on in the slide deck, you're giving yourself a chance to get more customers. So for instance, you might just have family members that are sharing and amplifying your content. You have maybe colleagues that might not be your customer, because not everybody has to be a customer, but they're going to share this content. They're going to get people visible, or get your website visible to other people on social, on the web, in email, whatever. One of the things that often comes up when I consult with people, you start your first website, you get your first few pages up there, and it's like, I got to do an about page. That's typically like the starting point for any small business website is, well, you got to have an about page. You have to talk to people, tell people who you are, what you do, how you got here, yada, yada, yada. And people just like, I have nothing to say. I don't even know like where to begin. Well, telling the story of why you're passionate about starting this business, how this business runs. Like if you've been in business for a decade, how have you survived for 10 years on the South Coast or wherever? Everything you do is content. Everything can be woven into a story that threads the needle of your story. And if you think that you're running out of content, so let's say you can tell that story and you do that about page and you do get it out there. First of all, it's not over. There's plenty more content to go. And people are generally interested in the inner workings of your business, how you reach customers, how you build your product, how you do your service. What is valuable to you as the business owner? What are the ideals that you lead your business with? And then sharing that with others, because somebody out there is going to resonate with that message. Everything is content. You should never run out of the ability to create content for your brand. And this goes beyond the website, though we are talking about a website today. And I'm not just talking about the blog, but I am talking about Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you're spending your time on social. Plenty of opportunity there to continuously create content. If you're in business, you should never run out of content. Even if you have no customers right now, the mere fact that you have no customers and you're trying to find customers is a piece of content to itself. I woke up today and emailed 25 people to try to get their business, and not one person replied to me. Putting that out in either a blog post or an Instagram story is, one, it makes you transparent. It makes you vulnerable, which a lot of people associate with, and are happy to see that side of a business, but it gets you more confident, just as an example. Let's talk about Cornerstone Content for a moment. Cornerstone Content is a lengthy piece of content, the biggest, the meatiest piece of content that you can put out for at least one pillar of your brand. It's the cornerstone of a wall, of a foundation. There's so many different ways to twist Cornerstone Content. It's the foundation, whatever it might be. But if you want to be recognized as somebody that is a specialist in a particular area, right? Or you are trying to really position yourself as the expert in a particular consulting service. And when I did this presentation for eForall last week, somebody was talking about how they have this particular service, and because of the model of the service and the time it takes to engage with a customer, they can't offer this service, to everybody. There's a limited amount of slots of time that they can dedicate to customers. It's a pretty good problem to have. That means you don't have to sell in mass and you don't become a commodity. So there's not a lot of competition, hopefully. But this person was asking, like, okay, how do I present that and hopefully show some value to say that I am worth a higher amount of dollars for somebody to pay me? And the concept here is you take that huge piece of knowledge that you have and you get it out in the biggest form, the lengthiest form of educational or entertaining piece of content that you can create. It could be your about story in the beginning, and that's what you sort of fixate on, or it becomes one of your specialties. So let's lead with an example. So one of the things on southcoast.fm is I have a resource section. And this resource section will be the home base of all Cornerstone pieces of content that I want to associate with my brand, with the services, with the content that's coming out of here. So if I want to consult with folks, as I have been, on creating podcasts, creating content, I need something that pushes forward my knowledge, my expertise to say, I know what I'm talking about. So I created the podcast guide. And this is a 12,000 word piece, practically a book, and I am going to turn it into a downloadable book of everything I know about podcasting. And I'll just make this a little bit bigger so we can all see it. This is my Cornerstone Content for podcasting. So if somebody comes to me, which they often do, and they say, I want to start this podcast, I have no money, I can't hire you, what do you think I should do? Here is everything I know, 12,000 words, 25 sections of, the mindset of a podcast or the logistics of, creating a podcast, all the way down to all of the best hardware, software, hosting, editing stuff, apps, graphic design, everything you need to know about podcasting. And I use it as a piece to, of course, assert the knowledge. But when somebody comes to me and there might not be a qualified customer yet because of budget, or we're just not a good fit or whatever, I can provide this piece of Cornerstone content. Say, here you go. Here's the guide. Can't hire me? No problem. Don't have the time? No problem. Read this literal book and go ahead and do it on your own. And the other benefit to Cornerstone content is it allows you to create evergreen and search content. Let's lead with another example. So out of the book, the podcasting book guide, there's a section on, the best value microphone, right? What's the best microphone? Everybody wants to start a podcast. They always talk about, you need to get a microphone. What's the best microphone I should get? It always leads, with something to that effect. It's not about the microphone. Newsflash: the starting a podcast is not about the microphone that you're using. It's a lot of other things, but it's a common question. So I answer that question, in the guide. But on my blog post or my blog, I created another blog post called "The Best Podcasting Microphone for Your Money," and it recommends the same microphone, the microphone that I'm using now. And this is just a little section off of that Cornerstone content. So the great thing about Cornerstone content is you spend all that time creating one big piece of content, and then you can pull from it for months on end, probably years on end, right? When you build something that large. So when I say everything is content, when I say everybody should be creating content, there's plenty of opportunity to not make this, super overwhelming and super difficult. And in this example, again, this is just sort of reiterating what's in the guide into a single, maybe 500-600 word blog post. And if I ever get stuck in writing and creating new content, I simply go back into, the guide, the Cornerstone content. I pull out a section, I expand upon it in a blog post, and then I link back, right? Searchable, evergreen content. This is content that people will always be searching for, and it helps me get ranked in Google, and it provides value to visitors. So benefit of creating Cornerstone content and then creating search and evergreen content from it. The days of building a website and ranking on page 1 of Google have long been gone. Those of you that have been doing this for quite some time probably already know that. Those of you who might be getting into it, thinking about what it was like to start a website 10 years ago, are going to be in for an interesting surprise. You have to actually work to make your website work for you, right? And you have to spend the time formulating the goals, setting the strategy, creating the attractive content. And that's why I led this discussion, as I often do, with don't waste your time with design. There are great starting points for design that are out there, and you don't want to fall into that black hole of just moving things around and constantly focused on pixels and colors. You want to be able to spend the time creating the valuable content and then getting it out there. Here's another example. I'm just going to pull these all from my site just because it's easy and at hand. So I often write posts that are not about podcasting. Surprise, surprise. And here's one that I wrote a little while ago. This is last year in October. And this is co-working and remote work on the South Coast. And why did I write this? One, it's an evergreen piece of content. So in terms of ranking in Google and search terms, because that's a low competitive space, there's only a handful of co-working spaces in the South Coast, if that. I can write this post, rank for this post in Google, right? Because not many people are writing about co-working on the South Coast. But it also aligns with the audience that I want to come to southcoast.fm, because most people who go to a co-working space are probably the type of people who also listen to podcasts. Therefore, if I write a post about co-working on the South Coast and I rank in Google and people find me when they're searching for places to do co-working on the South Coast, not only can I provide great content for them, I wrote up a whole sort of guide to co-working on the South Coast, the different places you can go to co-work on the South Coast, 5 tips for co-working and remote work. So I give you plenty of value. I highlight the locations that are here on the South Coast, and then hopefully you become a podcast listener. So everything aligns, really, really well. But to go back to the slide, work for your site, okay? I wrote this piece so people could find my site. I'm working to get people to my site by writing it, but then I didn't stop there. I went to each co-working space that you see in this post, and I emailed them, and I say, hey, look, I did this great piece on your co-working location, thought you might find it valuable. Maybe people coming to your location or otherwise might find this, a valuable piece. What do you think? And I get a bunch of responses back from almost all of them to say, this is great. We featured it in our email newsletter that goes out to thousands of people. We put it in our Slack channels, whatever, our Facebook pages, and then it was shared. But I didn't wait for people to find it and then share it. I went directly to them and said, I spent hours building this piece of content. Hopefully you want to share it. I didn't demand that they shared it, but they looked at it, they shared it, and it brought a ton of traffic to the site. I got email subscribers, I got podcast listeners, and I got people liking the Facebook page because of this one post and because I was pushing it out there. So I was working for my site. Once you start working for your site works for you. Okay. Once this inertia starts to, this momentum starts to work in your favor, you start ranking in Google. People are just sharing your content. They're always tuning into the podcast. They're always opening up your emails. And it's this snowball effect that takes a lot of time to push down the hill, over the hump, whatever. It takes time. But once it gets built and that momentum begins to find itself forward, you'll start getting leads. You'll start getting shares without you having to constantly, push for it. You should never stop pushing and working for your website. But the good news is that tail end, that evergreen content starts to kick in. And before you know it, everything is sort of moving in this autopilot fashion. And it's just the importance of this slide is once you get the inertia moving, the momentum, it begins to work for you. Does that make sense for the 6 people that are listening? Own your site and own the experience. So there's a lot of people that, will tell you to push everything to social, everything on Facebook, everything on Instagram. I'm the opposite. I like to look at using platforms like this, like I'm doing right now, using Facebook Live and streaming something, and then pushing you to my website, pushing you to the channels where I can own the experience. So I can own the experience of connecting with you through my podcast, through my email newsletter, through my blog, that kind of thing. And I don't want to put my best content on social media, right? I don't want platforms to own the good stuff, right? Because we've all seen what's happened in the past, years ago when everyone pushed you to Facebook, or I should say when Facebook pushed you to get everybody to like your Facebook page, 5-6 years ago, you could get 1,000 likes to your Facebook page. And when you made a post and you updated it, you'd reach like 600 people. And it was like amazing. They're like, well, I don't even need a website. Don't need a website. But that was, pulling the wool over our eyes, because here we are in 2020. And if you have 1,000 Facebook fans or likes and you post something, you're lucky to get like 90 people to see it, right? Unless you're pushing things through pay-per-click or paid advertising, which is not something that I specialize in. But it's just a huge, huge gap that you're missing. And it's just a pay to play sort of marketplace. So I don't want to put my best content there on social. I want to use it to push back to my home base, to my website, and then keep all of the high value and highly unique content to my website, and especially to an email list, right? Getting folks to sign up to your email list is your most valuable asset, because so far that is not something that social media sites can control. In other words, if you have that email list, you email 1,000 people, 1,000 people are going to get it, lest they unsubscribe from you or you spam them, but obviously you don't want to do that. But there is no search algorithm or Facebook algorithm that gets in the way with email. Of course, you could get technical. There's some deliverability issues with some email providers, but the whole point is you drive an email list and you have a much more connected customer or audience member. So turn the tables on social and push them to the website, to your content. And telling your story. So obviously I'm biased in this because I think podcasting and YouTube is a great way to connect, build an audience that become highly valuable to you, but also amplify your message and, really bind a high level of trust. When it comes to competing with Amazon, so if you were, somebody that sold the same thing that Amazon sold, well, 9 times out of 10, you're probably, and you don't do anything, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose because Amazon's going to be cheaper. They're going to deliver it to you faster. Not going to get any tax or whatever. And they're just going to get it to you super fast. And most customers are just like, yeah, it's convenient. I can order this right on my phone versus calling Matt, and it's going to take a whole bunch of time to get this thing to me. The last thing that we have in the face of giants, competition or otherwise, even a local competition, telling your story is going to set you apart. The more content you can produce, the more, transparency that you can lead with, you're going to build an audience that trusts you. And hopefully you're going to build an audience that is pre-qualified to do business with you. So, in the consulting world, there's, especially in web content, that kind of thing. Like if you came to me and said, I want you to handle all my content marketing, handle my podcast. And I say, great. It's X thousands of dollars to engage with something. Oh, I don't want to pay that. Well, why not? What are you doing on your site? What are you doing with your company? Are you trying to make money online? No, not really. Okay, then we're not a good fit. But hopefully, by constantly telling my story and connecting with others, people will get that message. You qualify somebody to do business with you. Not everybody should be your customer. You shouldn't want everybody to be your customer. You'd be going nuts. Of course, unless you were selling bottled water or something, I don't know. But if you had something unique, especially a service, we can't service everybody and you shouldn't have to. And what that is doing is building attention. Attention is what people, if anybody follows Gary Vaynerchuk, they're always talking about attention is the currency. And it's so true because we only have so much attention. How are you going to break somebody's attention on a Sunday night? The best time for watching TV. If you're sending out your messages on a Sunday night, I guess depending on your audience, it's going to be a hard sell, right? How are you going to break the mold or break the attention of your potential audience or your potential customer if you're not constantly telling stories, if you're not constantly putting out content? If you put out one post a week on Facebook and it's like, hey, come buy my stuff. I mean, what kind of chance are you giving your business? You need to build that attention. So it's a fine balance of constantly pushing out content that's valuable to customers, and then leading them with call to actions so that you can measure the effectiveness. Because at the end of the day, we're creating opportunity for ourselves. That is the whole point of this exercise. You are out there building and building an audience, building attention to create opportunity, not just to sell a person to become a customer, to sell your widget for $50 to this person, but to create opportunity for them to amplify your message and share it with others. I mean, it's the most basic thing with advertising is to keep advertising the same message, the same brand language over and over again for that one opportunity where the customer hears your ad for the 100th time and they're like, oh yeah, I need that. Oh yeah, I can recommend her, right? So even if they don't become a customer, it's referral-based business that is an opportunity that's created because they hear your message all the time. Though they might not buy from you, they might come across somebody who would want to buy from you that hasn't heard your message yet, and then they refer them to you. So this is all about creating that opportunity. And then, of course, watch the clock. As I am, it's 34 minutes into the stream. Watch the clock. This stuff does take time. Organic content, brand building, it all takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not something that you are going to immediately see the hard dollars from right away, unless you create content and it sort of just blows up and goes viral, which is a very difficult thing to do. but it takes time. Like the co-working piece, it takes time. It's starting to rank. It's starting to show up in Google, and I am getting, visits from it. Another one that's starting to rank is a review I did on whether or not you should join the local chamber, right? Creating content like that in a month or so, or a couple months, it really starts to kick in, and then all cylinders are firing, right? Free content marketing help on the South Coast is another huge one. That's actually bringing in a lot of traffic lately to the site because people are looking for content marketing help. They're looking for free, and it sort of all works out. It really leads them to the South Coast Content Creators Group. That's the best way to get free support and all this stuff. But creating this content takes time to get amplified, takes time to share. And the benefit is once you start to create it, you repurpose it, you use it over and over again. So it doesn't have to die. And that's why I like podcasting so much, because I can take, an hour-long podcast I do, or even a half hour, it doesn't matter the time, half-hour podcast. We'll say Beth Perdue from South Coast Emerging Leaders Awards, and of course she works for Standard Times, but that's obviously not the name of it anymore. Gatehouse Media. I can take this interview and pull out chunks of this interview literally in audio format, and I can share a 30-second clip, like the best 30-second clip from her interview, the best 10 30-second clips from this interview. And I have this ability to repurpose content and keep it going. These are things that are just infinitely valuable once you start to accrue a collection of content. So it just takes time. It takes time, takes effort, takes some goal measuring. Content marketing is fun. It's valuable. I think every brand should be investing in it. I've been recently looking at financial, like banks, local banks. If you're somebody who works for a local bank, I've been analyzing your Instagram accounts. I've been analyzing what you don't do with YouTube. And it's curious to me, as I'm wondering, one, are you not getting customers from these channels? Like, are these not viable channels for South Coast banks and financial institutions? Or is it that you just don't know how to position that content on any of these channels? You don't have somebody in-house who can really connect on a social level across these accounts. I mean, look, some of them are doing an okay job, but it's very much just contextual, like in the moment type content. We were at this event. We gave out this award. We donated X amount of dollars to this, but nobody's connecting to me as to why I should do business, with said bank, right? Most of the content that I see come out of financial institutions are, hey, people are getting promos, right? Promotions. People are getting a new interest rate, right? This person, so-and-so, got a new job in the bank, and now they are, XYZ title now. And it's like, okay, these are pieces of content just in motion. Like, you're not creating an experience for me. You're not even telling me why I should throw my money into your bank, which is just like mind-boggling to me. Right? Because as business owners, we sit there and we're like, please, Mrs. Customer, give me your money. And banks are just like, yeah, it's 0.003% on a savings account. Throw your money in the back. Let's just get this thing going. I was like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to give you this money without you even really trying to convince me. So I find it very interesting. That's just my particular take on that. But I'll have more of that content coming out hopefully soon. Southcoast.fm. Southcoast.fm/subscribe. Join the mailing list. Subscribe to the podcast. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to tell folks about the South Coast Content Creators Group. Do I have a banner that I can put up? I don't. I have this banner. Don't forget to join the email newsletter, Sunday Notes .email. Subscribe to the channel, all of that fun stuff. All right. We'll see you in the next video.